From the local station, this is Weather Authority Weekday.
Hey everyone, I'm Meteorologist Mark Collins. We're covering the bases for you in the weather world. We're going to be talking about the heat here and tropical storm, or should I say Hurricane Erin. I'm sure by the next hour, this could be a hurricane or later on Friday, but it will have no impacts for us other than surf. And since the whole reason why I became a meteorologist was to forecast surf, I'm going to dwell on the surf forecast for Northeast Florida and the East Coast, talk about when the best waves are going to arrive. And well, yeah, it's nice and sunny out there, isn't it? So we don't have much weather here now other than the heat building in through the day is going to be taking our temperatures well into the mid 90s through the afternoon. We're going to hold off on the rain until about 6, 7 o'clock with only a few isolated showers after lunchtime. The best chance for seeing rain today is going to be around the St. Johns River into the west. The National Weather Service has a 30% chance of rain in at the beaches, but with that easterly flow coming through, it's probably unlikely that we'll get any rain there in the coastal communities. But Nassau County, Duval County, and then straight down Clay into Putnam County is where the models are sniffing out some showers developing through about that 3 o'clock time frame when we could start to see some rain, and then more towards the evening. So this particular model here is pretty light on the rain until about that evening hour, and there you see those spots where there was that 40 and 50% chance is being covered by this short range model. So beach is looking pretty good today. Even this weekend when the rain picks up over those inland spots, I think there'll be less rain along the coastal spots. So I definitely gear up for a nice beach weekend since tomorrow is going to be almost as hot as today. All right, so we've got really just one system. I know the National Weather Service is looking at that small swirl down in the Bay of Campeche. That's going to be moving towards Mexico, and they've upped the chance of that developing into maybe a short-range tropical depression before it comes ashore, which would be tonight. So really nothing there of concern in the Gulf, but notice the banding structure on this tropical storm. It is just your classic full-fledged decent looking tropical storm where you're starting to see outflow channels to the north and then inflow channels to the bottom. Those are the upper level clouds. And then since the shear is pretty light on this, you're getting a nice CDO, a symmetrical. As we zoom in very closely, you can see that bright ball of red starting to form. That's an indication that it's on the verge of reaching hurricane strength. So when you get that CDO, the central dense overcast, sometimes you'll get an indentation of where the upper level air is coming down and it scours out the clouds. It's the warming process that forms the eye. And once you start seeing an eye develop, that's when you know you got a hurricane. So these are all Dvorak techniques that are used to interpret satellites to gauge how strong the winds are. These advanced Dvorak techniques are now being done by computers and humans, but this is what we used before we could get hurricanes in there. And this storm was too far out to the east for Hurricane Hunter planes to reach. That changed yesterday with the first flights that were going in, have had more flights going in this morning, and they have yet to find hurricane force winds. The flight that's in there now actually has a tail Doppler radar on the P3. Those are run out of Lakeland, out of NOAA, and they're a little different than the ones, the Air Force planes out of Mississippi. With that tail Doppler radar, they might find hurricane force winds. I was just looking at the recon reports and I saw no hurricane force winds. So it's unlikely at 11 o'clock that this will be upgraded to a hurricane, but by the end of the day, it might, because it's fighting dry air. This map shows all the orange. That's very, very dry air at the mid levels, which has been preceding the storm and has kind of hindered it all week long. For the past 5 days, it's been fighting that dry air. It's kept it really compact, small, and stopped it from becoming a hurricane. Now that dry air is going to erode and it will strengthen because the shear is pretty light. And once we get rid of that drier air, all bets are, the models are saying that this could rapidly intensify over the weekend. Notice here, moving north of the Lesser Antilles, not even coming close to scraping the islands, and then threading the channel between Bermuda and the east coast of the United States. Monday is the turn. So we could see this as a Category 4. That's what the Hurricane Center is forecasting, Cat 4 strength. and then it turns north, staying off our coastline. I put this yellow coloring on there, which shows tropical storm force winds. And if you've got plans to Puerto Rico, you'll probably get some rainy weather coming up from the south. Estimates are anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain on the high side. I wouldn't cancel plans to the island because that looks like it's mainly confined for Sunday. And then by Monday, it'll be clearing out. The yellow are those 40-mile-per-hour winds staying mainly north of the coast. So if you're going to Agadir, Ponce, areas on the west or southern coast, no issues there as far as high winds. It looks like 15 to 20 knots. And even on the north side there, those winds aren't going to be really tropical storm force. They'll stay to the north. All the models tightly clustered, so they're unanimous with it missing the Greater Antilles, and even better news for Bermuda as it stays to the west and it stays to the east of us. So you couldn't ask for a better storm as far as having a major storm tracking towards the west, having it miss all of those land masses. That's an ideal situation. Now, from my perspective, from the billion-dollar surfing industry perspective, this is great news as well, because the entire East Coast will get lit up with glassy swells. And oftentimes these storms come so close that it gets wind blown and blown out. Not in this situation. The winds will stay light. So what's turning it to the north and then northeast? Well, a couple things. Mostly, these storms are steered by the Bermuda Ridge, and when those ridges are strong and intact, it pushes it towards the Gulf or Florida. This is not an intact ridge. And already we're seeing the ridge break down. There's a cold front to the north putting the dent in the ridge, allowing a corridor, an alley for the storm to move northward. That red there shows the lower pressure in contrast to the higher pressure in orange. As it slips north, another cold front will be the double kicker that ejects this thing and misses the northeast, misses Nova Scotia. So even the Canadian Maritimes are not going to see much in the way of high winds from the storm. So that ridge builds in. It looks like we'll be dealing with kind of wetter weather towards the end of next week with that southwesterly flow. A trough that comes in along the eastern seaboard will lift moisture out of the Gulf. So we're still going to be dealing with our daily rounds of rain here across Florida. Looking at the green, this is the moisture swirl. And notice how that orange, that dry slot, erodes. So as it pulls up moisture from the Caribbean Sea, that will aid the intensification process. So for hurricanes, they need light winds aloft, they need warm sea surface temperatures, and they need a moist environment, which is why you don't find storms right off the coast of Africa. It's too dry there. Even though it's over the ocean, the air above the ocean is quite dry. There's not enough humidity for storms and hurricanes to focus. But in this area north of the Hispaniola and to the east of the Bahamas, it's a pretty good environment for this thing to throttle up. The orange that you see to the north is, let me go ahead and put the winds on that. So there you see the yellow. Those are the jet stream winds, and those push the moisture around. It steers storms, and it's a visual tracer. Watching how the moisture flows can represent how those winds are moving in the atmosphere. So that's the second trough that comes in and acts as a double protection barrier for Cape Hatteras, where they're not even going to get tropical storm force winds. So that storm is a done deal. It's baked into the forecast models that it's going to be a pretty reliable fish storm. Looking closer as to what I said about those winds in Puerto Rico, winds coming up from the south, so it will be choppier along the south coast versus the glacier waves. Places along like Tres Palmas on the north side, areas, Avianes on the north side of Puerto Rico, it's just going to be an epic swell. And it's not going to be too blown out for places like Wilderness, and Wilderness can hold huge swells. I don't think the waves are going to get particularly massive. It's not going to be the all-time storm since a lot of that wave energy is moving away from Puerto Rico. It is actually moving towards us, so we're in that fetch where those winds that are going to be blowing at 115, 130 miles per hour will build those seas up. This is the 3D model that I built that shows the wave heights on the bottom, and then the mountain graph actually shows the thresholds for hurricane classification. So yellow is tropical storm, and then you can see the yellow is Cat 1 strength through the weekend into Sunday. And you start to see at the peak of that mountain graph is getting into like some Cat 2 and Cat 3 strength winds. So these wave heights there are like averaging 20 widely spread around the storm, and then right there at the eye walls where you could get 35 to 40 foot waves based on those type of wind speeds. So we're into Wednesday when it's going to be 700 miles due east of Jacksonville. So at this point, 700 miles away, the wind envelope is not going to infringe anywhere close to Florida or the United States. So we've got surf building Tuesday morning. Dawn patrol will be pretty small. You're not going to see much other than long period waits between a 1 or 2 foot swell. By the whistle blowing, by the end of the day, Tuesday, you'll have some good rideable waist-high waves. And Wednesday morning is the call to skip work all day Wednesday. Thursday, a better day too, to play hooky from work. Thursday, the waves, though, are going to be subsiding a bit. So there could be some closeout sets on Wednesday just because of the swell angle coming in straight from the east. Thursday might be better for longer rides, better for longboarders since it's not going to be closing out. And yeah, if you're sick for a couple days, you may want to go back to work on Friday. That's when the surf will be dropping off as we head into Friday. Now, over the weekend, there'll still be lingering swells. It's just not going to be peaking like what we're going to have late Wednesday afternoon. So by Friday, we're still looking at good ground swells coming in and probably translating to about 4 to 5 feet on the sandbars, which would be head high. Wednesday, Thursday, you're looking at overhead waves and then lingering swells here through the weekend. So that's going to be in the water, on the air. We've got the heat advisories here in Jacksonville through 7 o'clock. High temperatures in the mid-90s. Today will be a spitting image of what we had on Wednesday as far as timing of rain, as far as heat goes. And then into the weekend, we'll see most of the rain from Jacksonville back towards the west. So high temperatures today above normal before they get back to near normal on Sunday. And then next week, we're actually looking at a few dry days here. As we head into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, rain chances will be dropping off. And then we'll be looking at an uptick in rain starting by the end of the week into next weekend. So breathing a sigh of relief. There was no real threat at all with Erin. And if you're a swimmer and a weak swimmer, stay away from the beach here as we head towards the weekend and into next week. Actually, this weekend looks pretty safe there. All right, this is your Weather Authority update. I'm meteorologist Mark Collins. Thanks for watching.
See why every day more people are choosing News 4 Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.